All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
What's up?
What's up? How we feeling? Beautiful Wednesday afternoon.
Beautiful Wednesday, and I had to face your boy Darren again today. Back-to-back days. Back-to-back. And the drop did come up once again.
Oh, really? The requested drop, the requested ruling on 18, which is totally legal?
He just said it was just the position we were in, him getting blows on 17 and 18, and then it's all over anyway, and he was still pulling it. That was the only thing.
Well, that's fine. I think it would be perceived differently as, man, that's a man of integrity. That's a guy who really appreciates sports, rules and regulations. I think I actually gained probably points in the reputation department personally, but
he said, there was, because everybody says the big question today on the putting green was, well, how was Hazy B out there? And Darren gave you compliments. He said, you know what? He grinds.
That's exactly what I have to do.
Exactly. There's some tough holes, and there was tough holes for everybody, but know where the match is at, where the strokes are, and when you can grind.
Yeah, that's the degenerate, right? It's not going to be pretty, but a win is a win is a win.
That's right.
And you know what? We had an early tee time. The truth is, I didn't get my 14 hours in. And if I got my 14 hours in, I would have probably shot 68 at the Nash because...
Dude, have you ever heard anything like that?
Yusei Kikuchi is my spirit animal and immediately my favorite athlete of all time. I'm buying my kids Kikuchi jerseys. I don't care if they like them or not. They're wearing them. This story is amazing. And the media jumped on it, to their credit, right? There isn't a ton of media down there in New York. But the media that's there, they jumped on it. Yusei Kikuchi speaking through an interpreter after the game. He had to come out of the game with cramps. He said, I'll be good, right? I'll be fine in 5 days. Don't worry about me. I think I can diagnose the issue. Oh, yeah? What's the issue, Yusei? I only got about 10 hours of shutdown last night. And usually I'm used to 13 to 14 hours when I'm pitching. 13 to 14 hours of
Tiger
sleep.
Woods sleeps for 2 hours. That's it. This guy needs 14.
I love it.
And being honest about it, too. That's the crazy part. He's like, no, you don't want people to know that. That's over half a day that you were in the wrapper. Like, you're that lazy of a person.
Right.
And he's like, no, I need 14. 14 if I'm pitching. Like, what is that routine?
Does this mean the guy on an afternoon game, it's just pass me? Don't even think about making me go to the ballpark at 9 a.m.?
What I started thinking, 12:37 first pitch, do they look before the season starts and say, well, we got to skip him? We need a six-man rotation because if Yusei's only on 9 hours sleep, he's going to be an absolute disaster. And maybe that explains what happened to him last year. New apartment, new condo, new house, didn't have the proper setup, couldn't get his 14 hours, and he was a gas can. And now he's dialed it in. I need access to this guy's cave. I don't know if it's CTV News, Rick Westhead. I need to see what this cat's dealing with.
See, as far as a pro athlete goes, Hazy, and I've always thought about this throughout my career, that's where, hockey and I don't know what goes on in baseball, but I'm sure it's the same. If there's a meeting, you got to be there. Regardless if you're going to skate on morning skate, you got to show up to the rink because it's a team thing and everyone's there. But if I've got Kikuchi that walks into the coach's office that says, anything in the morning, I will not be involved in. And no, I'm being serious.
I agree with you. Totally.
Because if it's just some meeting, I need somebody to email me the Coles notes because I need 14 hours, and that's how I perform.
Right. And on top of that, don't send me a text because if for whatever reason I forgot to put my phone on silent, I'm a gas can, right? This guy's got to have perfect temperature control, not a sliver of sunlight. I would think noisemaker, and I'm really intrigued on what kind of, is he going with crashing waves? What are we talking here for 14 hours?
No, he's got a headset.
I wouldn't be shocked if he
Headset?
rented out a basement apartment, so it's just a cave, a dark cave.
I believe he's got a wife and children. I believe, obviously they are told, if Yusei is pitching, you don't knock, right? You do not go close to that cave.
Yeah, but I think he might be one of those guys. What is that? Where the sleep apnea people wear the
CPAP or the Bane mask. You think he's got a Bane mask for 14 hours?
I guarantee you, this guy is in a cave and he's got one of those masks and he's got the machine pumping.
Right,
and it's almost like he's on a ventilator. It's just literally, he's literally just hanging out. I guarantee, it just. He's more intriguing the more you get to know about him because he's very obviously not super public because he's not comfortable with the language, all of that. You just don't know about him. But if you I would love to see his routine on a daily basis. And you're right. If he's married with kids, it's I'm in the basement. Don't even look at me. Mm-hmm. If the house is on fire, get yourselves out. I'll figure it out.
Right.
I'm sleeping.
I got a big game to pitch tonight, and I intend on bringing heat. I intend on going deep. I intend on keeping my ERA below 3.75. I'm going to strike out everyone I see tonight, and it's going to happen because I'm on 14 hours. 14 hours of sleep is, I think, the greatest soundbite. I wish we had it from the horse's mouth, right?
Yeah, I always thought 12 was
crazy,
outrageous. If you went to bed at 9 and you got up at 9 the next morning, you should be able to go balls out for the weekend off of that type of a rest. No sleep at all.
Well, that's just got back from Vegas, haven't slept in 3 days. I'm crawling into bed and I'm going to sleep for 12 hours. And after 12 hours, you've woken up 4 or 5 times, you've looked at your phone, and you're still not doing anything all day. This cat has to make sure he gets to the park to pitch in front of 40,000 people. It's amazing.
I'll admit, I'm not a sleeper. I sleep 6 hours a night. I'm fine. If I get 6, I'm happy.
Right.
Kids are the worst because obviously doesn't matter what type of lifestyle you lead.
Kids don't want it.
They're waking
they don't
you
want
up.
it. Yeah, they hate it.
But I have friends, and you guys can speak for your own person. I know people who are sleepers. I'm just not. I'm not lying. I don't know if I've ever slept 12 hours straight in my life. And I'm not trying to be a hero or anything. Mm-hmm. I would love it. But I just don't know if I've ever laid down at midnight and slept till noon the next day. Right. Usually when I sleep till noon, it's because I've gone to bed at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Well, exactly.
Because I've crawled home.
Yes,
that's basically it.
Yeah, that has happened many times. Where someone's like, "Wow, you're just getting up." You're like, "I've had 4 hours sleep. I went to bed at 8 a.m. So that's why I'm just getting up." This is different. This is strategic. This is scientific. He's flying people in all over the world saying you got to get 14. Is he hanging from the ceiling like a bat? How is this guy sleeping at night? I need access to it, and I love the fact that they got the win for Kikuchi last night. The Yankees are just toast, man. I'm not taking anything away from the Jays. They showed up. They hit Bichette. We were saying that yesterday, right? Bo's got to come alive. He came alive last night. Biggio had hits last night, and it was a pretty routine win. Springer, absolutely. And, the Yankees just look like a team that is playing it out. Now, we'll see if that carries over to tonight. But still, a win is a win is a win. Kikuchi's going to be all good. If he's on the road, you better make sure no one – I hope this doesn't tip people off to prank calls on the road, right? Find out what hotel he's at, try to wake him up, 14 hours of sleep.
But guys like that, though, if you're so used to sleeping like that, I guarantee you can sleep through a hurricane.
Yes.
That's it won't matter. Prank calling him on the road. That happened, I remember, to us in the playoffs where I was playing with St. Louis and the opposing team, I think, I want to say we were in Detroit or in Arizona, one of the two, and they were crank calling, a radio station was crank calling the players at 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. Grant Fear answered and did a full interview at 6 o'clock in the morning. He was fine with it. They woke him out of a dead sleep. He was he did a 20-minute interview.
With a radio station?
Live radio station. They were calling people and crank calling him, and he answered and did a full interview. Like it was. Everyone else was hanging up and just beat it, and they were mad at the hotel. Fierzy did a full interview with like a morning crew.
Good for him.
At like 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. I don't know what it was.
That's
but
such a
crazy.
greasy play. Like it is a local shock radio thing.
Man.
Like let's see if we can call him and get him on the line. And then Fuhrer answers, and they're like, "Oh, I guess we got to interview this guy."
And they full interviewed him too, and he was kind about it. It's just so fun. You don't think Carlo would be he would be calling if the Leafs were in the finals? He'd be trying to call McDavid's room at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I don't think he would do that. I think some people.
I gotta give
would.
Carlo the benefit of the doubt on that one.
I don't think he'll call. He's finding what hotel McDavid's in. And how would you even get to McDavid? That's the amazing thing.
I'm joking,
like you're calling the Four Seasons. Hey, we're looking for McDavid.
I would be 100% positive. Right. The team services guy in 2023. There is no way to access the rooms.
It shouldn't ever be possible.
Take the phones right out of the rooms.
Yeah.
There's no sense.
Well,
but that
who
uses
a landline anymore? Like that's really what it is. Like,
exactly. No one needs to call the hotel to bring.
Dude, my first 3 years in the league, I used the landline calling everybody, family back at home, and I didn't know. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to let that slide. But you give your credit card to the team before the season for any incidentals, because I never used to check out. I would just get on the bus and just deal with the damage later. The phone calls were insane. Like, do you know what hotels charge for phone calls?
International?
Yeah. $12 a minute.
International calls. So how much money?
$12 a minute.
How much money did you spend throughout your career making phone calls from a landline at a hotel? Give us a ballpark number.
I bet you I spent $250,000 in incidentals throughout my career. If you want to tack on everything, and that's no joke.
$250,000 in phone calls. Yeah, we're playing well last night.
Not phone call. I'm talking room service, late night tubs of beer. Who knows? Like he just sometimes thinks. I think it's $220,000 worth of incidentals over 20 now. Years.
That's the thing, though. You're right. Like you can, if you ordered up 12 beer from like you're staying at the Ritz-Carlton. Like that's an ugly bill,
right?
Like it's because they charge $12 or $15 a beer.
I always thought an ultimate veteran move, and I don't want to name names who told me this, was put 24 on ice before you leave for the game. If you're staying over at a nice city and you know you're taking it deep, it's just a nice refresher if you don't want the night to end. You do feel guilty when the guy comes with the big tray of cold beers before you're getting on the bus. You just say, "Bud, put those in the tub. Have them on ice."
The tub, though, that's a thing.
Everyone's done it, and it is such a sign of debauchery when you have a gritty, disgusting tub filled up with hotel ice and loaded with drinks.
Yeah. It's not
you come
good,
back, it's all melted, everything's soaked, and you're like, but it's perfect. You're ready to rock.
Beers are floating. They're literally floating in the tub. But it happens. You'll order up, chicken fingers. How many orders? 10 of them.
$250,000 in incidentals. No, 220 grand.
Yeah, 220. How did you break that down? How did you save yourself $30,000?
Yeah, I just like in a split second, you think of everything coming to the room. Key lime pie every night. It's just ice cream on the key lime pie. And then the first 3 years of phone calls, the food, the beers. It's a lot.
I wonder who, we talked about Babcock. I wonder if your coach ever got access to the incidentals list. It was like 2:38 a.m., key lime pie, 12 beers.
12 beers and a key lime pie and chicken nuggets and fries.
That's terrifying. Forget photos of what you're doing in the summer. Your incidental list when you're in the show, that's a book.
And
it did get delivered because there was a photocopy of everyone, and I always just used to toss them in the garbage because I'm like, I can't even look at that.
It'd be a phone book too. That's the thing. I guarantee you. That's what it was. It was 12 beer, key lime pie, and an 84-minute call to King City.
Oh yeah, talk to the folks, talk to all your buddies.
That's amazing. I love it. I need to see that. I'd love to have access to the sit down. Paul Maurice. Take a seat. We're just going to go look over your incidentals here. Do you remember what you ordered?
We got a key lime pie, we got phone calls, and we got 7 gin and tonics the night before the game.
You were playing. We were in Montreal that night. Do you remember? Remember how we played that night? Yeah, that would be outstanding.
That would be funny if you actually went back and they did have the hotel bills and then they had the game film. Of how well you played and
to know exactly what it is.
Like the shift chart and all of that. It would be awesome to put. Because you know what? Who is it? David Wells? The perfect game, right? Hungover disaster. Right. So you can debunk that theory, but if you do it a little bit more often and
not just hungover. He said the most hungover he's ever been in his life.
Right.
And he threw a perfect game.
He said splitting headache. He wanted a Kikuchi routine so badly. Because I think it was a day game, too, right? Kikuchi would have been out after the second inning without a drop of alcohol because he wouldn't sleep long enough. Wells was on no sleep and so hungover. Probably still drunk. When you're so hungover, you're still drunk is basically what he's saying.
For sure.
Probably still buckled. And for whatever reason, 27 up, 27 down. Which it's an amazing story anyway, but it makes it that much more impressive. Compelling, quite frankly. Yeah, it's wild.
Wasn't it, although on the other spectrum, was it Dwight Gooden? Was it Gooden, the pitcher that
was with the Mets. He had real drug issues.
Was talking about serious drugs.
Yes.
And being on the mound on angel dust or something crazy like that.
Well, he missed the 86 Mets. He tells the story, or the story's been told before, when they were having the World Series parade, and he was in an apartment in Brooklyn or something, watching it because he was such a mess. He's watching the parade. He didn't make it to the parade. I'm pretty sure I have that accurately.
Wow.
I think they did a 30 for 30 on the 86 Mets, and that's how bad it was. And meanwhile, he was the best pitcher in baseball, and Darryl Strawberry was out every single night. Just wild stories, man. Wild stories. But not really the case anymore, right? It's a bit of a different world now. You got guys sleeping 14 hours, and you got guys coming in. The Leafs open up camp today. Everyone's in the best shape they've ever been in, right? Which is always a good story. You know it. Last year they were in the best shape. The year before they were in the best shape. But this year they're really in the best shape ever.
Hey, Zion's in good shape too.
Zion Williamson, that is coming out of Pelicans headquarters. Yeah,
don't even. I'm not buying it. I will not buy that. I do not buy that.
No?
No.
Well,
I don't think it's tough for him to gain best shape ever status.
Compared to what?
Exactly. That's the point. He's never been in shape.
Low. Yeah, if you set the bar low and then all of a sudden you get in shape, you actually shouldn't get a medal or recognition or anything. That's what you should be. You should be in shape when you're a pro athlete. I'm sorry, people might call that, you're fat shaming or whatever. I'm not calling him fat. I'm just saying, as a pro athlete, be in shape. That's part of what comes with it. So he shouldn't get flowers for oh my God, this guy's taking his fitness seriously.
No
that
kidding.
should come with the game. I'm sorry.
I have a hard time thinking he gets through October without having some. It's just he's gotten to a point where it seems inevitable.
Yeah. That's the truth. I mean, that's basically been the story of his career, sadly. First overall, incredible talent, amazing player when he's healthy, incredibly compelling guy.
Yeah.
And yet, he can't stay healthy, and he hasn't been in shape. And whenever anything pops up, they immediately say, probably a couple weeks, and it's a couple of months. He had the injury last year where they're like, yeah, he should be back. He was never coming back. Wasn't going to happen. There's news coming in today that is left, right, and center. We've got wild stuff going on with the Chicago Bears. We'll tell you about that later this afternoon. The Giants have officially ruled out Saquon Barkley for Thursday Night Football. That spread is double digits. Last time I checked on FanDuel, Niners were minus 10.5. That might go up by kickoff. And again, the Leafs are in town. And there was some big news coming out of Leaf camp today. We'll come back, get into it. John Gibbons will join us later this hour as well. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. John Gibbons in a few moments. So the Leafs were back in town today, doing their media physicals. They'll be back on the ice tomorrow, and you're going to see William Nylander start camp at center ice. That was the bombshell of the day, I guess.
Bombshell of the day.
I don't know
could
why
last
they
4 plays. Yeah, I know. It's the way Sheldon Keefe switches the lines around, that could last 2 shifts of a preseason game. And then he'll be like, no, you're playing with John Tavares now. Maybe you're playing with Austin. I can't see it lasting more than a period.
I could see it, but I could see them moving Tavares to the wing. That's where I think eventually, let's not forget, it's not like John's 26 anymore. And he's not 40, so he had a good season, point-a-game guy last year. I don't think he exceeded expectations, but he's been very rock solid since he's put on a Toronto Maple Leaf jersey. Very consistent. But at some point, there might be a little decline. And if that's the case, and William Nylander, I could see them mixing and matching, but I just don't know why you announce that opening day of training camp. William Nylander's playing center. We'll figure it out when you get out on the ice and all that. It's almost like temperature check to see what people think of it. I don't know. Plus, what he thinks of it too, right?
Let's just see how they're committed to it. How committed are they to this? Is this a sit down where it's you're going to be a center iceman this year and we're going to let it fly? Or is this Sheldon Keefe experimenting because we know that can change within half a period?
Yeah, the conspiracy theorist in me thinks this is just a classic diversion tactic so that people don't ask Nylander about his contract, which if that's the case and they're thinking on that level, that's galaxy brain stuff, right? Hey, throw this bomb at the media so they're like, oh, who cares about the contract? Hey, Willie, you're playing center. What do you think, man? What's going on with playing center ice? It actually would be a brilliant PR.
Watch these dummies. They're going to talk for 4 days about you playing center.
No one's talking about the contract.
We're doing it.
And we're doing it. We're doing it.
Not 3 dummies right here talking about it
We'll fall into your trap. We'll fall into your trap, all right? Here we are. We're falling ass backwards into the Leafs trap because if that is the case, it's worked out beautifully. I think if this is true, this is all about Tavares. This is not as much about Willie as it is about Tavares.
Probably so, Hazy.
Right? With him making $11 million a year, they don't have the money and they don't have the prospects coming to replace that position, right? Second-line center is an incredibly important position in the NHL. And if Tavares can't give it to them at the appropriate level, it's not that he can't play anymore. It's not that he still isn't a very good centerman. I think they realize they got 2 more years at $11 million. They're up against it. David Kampf is not capable of moving that high. I don't think they want Max Domi as a second-line center. So it's either Tavares or Nylander, right? That's probably what they're expressing here. So they're going to give Willie a shot. They're going to see how comfortable he is. If it works, I think the plan is, yes, Willie can move up the middle of the ice. I don't know if it will work. I don't know how long it will last. But if it does, it's not as much about we like Willie there as I think it will be we want to move Tavares out. And when they acquired O'Reilly, that's what happened immediately. They got Ryan O'Reilly in here. John Tavares immediately moved to left wing. That was last season, right? I think you should anticipate that happening in the future, that Tavares is going to play a mixture of center and left wing. I think that will happen a lot.
And keep in mind, when you have a 9-pack, which is pretty deep, and that's what we're talking about, you are going to mix and match. It wasn't, I believe the Oilers experimented when they went with McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent-Hopkins down the middle and then mix guys around that. Mm-hmm. If you have depth, you can play with that. Doesn't mean that John Tavares is going to be your third-line center. Doesn't mean that William Nylander is going to be your third-line center. But it might, on certain nights or in certain situations, you can give the other team a different look and have strength in that position. That's all it does. It adds to the depth of that position if you feel like the others are filled out. So I find it, and I know we're joking about it, but this is what we are talking about instead of William Nylander's contract. We're talking about, there's going to be an adjustment for William Nylander, and we're going to be asking him, the transition to center, you played it in the minors for Sheldon, I believe.
Yeah, he did.
So
he
there
played
you go.
Up the middle of the ice with the Marlies, for sure. All he's known in terms of having success at the NHL level is on the wing, and that's still available to Sheldon Keefe. But it sounds like this was Trey Living basically telling Keefe and Nylander, this is what we're going to try. And I would have to assume that if you're going to make this announcement, it's not for a practice or two, right? I think you might as well commit to it for the full preseason. You know what he is on the wing. Willie's a veteran.
Yeah.
Willie knows who he is, what he is. Nylander.
I think he is a winger, to be honest with you. I just don't see him as the guy. Like the attention to detail needed if you want like a guy that can play in both ends of the rink. And as Ray always says, not everyone's a 200-foot player. Mm-hmm. And I've actually never considered Willie a 200-foot player because he is good at stick checking. He does intercept pucks. He breaks up plays in the neutral zone. But he just seems like a guy that likes to slash throughout the neutral zone and get into open areas and find open ice. And I just wonder what he would have thought when this was brought to his attention, because I know, and this is a completely different scenario, when I tried to come out of retirement, I wanted to be a right winger. And Lavi, of all people, comes up and says, we're going to put you at center ice in the preseason. And I gasped. I just was like, come on, man. But when you're on a tryout, you have no choice.
Yeah, you got to go around.
I was playing with like third. I was on the third line playing center, and I could hardly. I wanted to play first line right wing. Justin Williams blew out his Achilles. I'm like, there's my spot, and that just didn't come to fruition. I was wheeling around. But the question is, if you put William Nylander at right wing with John Tavares and Max Domi as a second line. Looks like a pretty good second line.
Yeah.
But who would be your third line center?
Well,
I don't think David Kamp's a good enough player for that position.
No, I think
he is cemented as a fourth line center. He's very good at it. He kills penalties, but he just does not create enough offense. He doesn't do it. Not that third line centermen generally create a whole bunch, but he doesn't do enough offensively. So who the hell's going to play there?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe Domi played center in Montreal and had a career year.
He can play center for sure. That's an option.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. It is,
fair enough.
But I don't know if it's an option for 82 games. And let's be clear here. I think you can still be a playoff team with David Kampf as your third line center. I don't think you can win a cup like that. Right? There's a separation. Right. Like if you got rock star first two lines, you got good guys on the wing, you got depth. Kampf can probably supply you something up the middle of the ice on the third line. But I think the vision is come playoff time, he's on the fourth line. So they're going to have to figure that out, and this could be a part of that pursuit. All right, Jays-Yankees tonight. It was a good one for the Jays last night. Yusei Kikuchi was pitching well until, the cramps popped up, and they got some big hits from Bichette and Biggio and Springer, and Jays are in a good spot. And to chat about it, we're joined now by former Blue Jay manager, host of the Gibby Show, one of our favorites, John Gibbons. How you doing, John?
What's up, boys?
We're doing great, man. The Jays all of a sudden are turning things around. Now they've won 4 in a row after getting swept by Texas 4 in a row. It's been a wild ride, but how you feeling about their chances now, right? Every game that passes by, they get closer to making the playoffs.
Yeah, well, you know what? In reality, they're too good not to get in. I mean, that's no guarantee, obviously. But if they were gonna collapse, it would have happened after that Rangers series, those 4 games. But then they won 3 from Boston. They won last night in New York. So it does look kind of funny though when you look at the standings. You see Boston and New York at the bottom of the standings. That's kind of unusual, isn't it?
Oh, big time.
Yeah, it is. Gibby Kikuchi said after the game that he thinks he might have hurt his neck because he didn't get 14 hours of sleep. Have you, in your time as the skip, ever had a guy sit down in your office and have like an outrageous request about because we were talking about it earlier. And sometimes whatever a guy needs to play, like if you ever had a guy say, I'm not showing up for early morning meetings, I just need to sleep, or anything crazy like that where you had to think about it and said, you know what, if that's what you need, go ahead and do it.
No, you know what, I don't know. Well, no, I mean, I've told guys, don't go out for BP many a times because they get tired, but I've never heard that with, what he said about not getting enough sleep. Now, maybe what he meant was, I slept too much and I slept on my arm funny or something. But otherwise, I would die for 14, 15 hours sleep. But, I would have to get up and pee about 6 times in that length of time. So I don't think that's happening.
It's the wildest story. It sounds as if Yusei Kikuchi genuinely believes in order for him to pitch very well, he needs 14 hours of sleep, to the point where I feel like if he's getting blown up early, Pete Walker probably goes out there, Gibby, and asks him, Are you on 10 hours sleep? Like 9 hours? What's the matter here? Why are you not hitting the corners? Why are you not throwing heat here? Are you only sleeping 10 or 11 hours a night? I mean, it's a wild story. And I guess the question is, as a manager, like, how much do you know what these guys are doing when they leave the park? How much do you want to know what they're doing?
I don't think you want to know. You know what? Hey, sometimes you got to turn your back on some things. But I tell you what, maybe what they ought to do is they check if whatever day he's starting, when he gets to the park that day, ask him how much he slept the night before, and if he didn't get enough, just pick somebody else, I guess.
Right.
But he's been getting a lot of sleep, man. The guy's been good. He's been good this year, that's for sure.
He's been outstanding. Yeah, he has. And, I mean, you got Gausman on the mound tonight. I think most people concede Gausman's your game one guy, and then it's some combination of Barrios, Kikuchi, Bassett. Like that hasn't been the issue really all year, right, Gibby? We keep talking about clutch hitting and power hitting and finding a way to get out of ruts offensively. But in terms of the rotation, the bullpen, John Schneider and company should feel very good about where they're at.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think there's a better team, a team out there that has better pitching. When you look at the whole starting rotation and the bullpen, especially the bullpen. They can come at you, but it doesn't. They really don't even need to line guys up necessarily. They can bring anybody in, and they got some firepower. Their pitching staff looks a lot like Houston's did last year as far as dominance, and they won it all. So but I do think they are built. If they get in, which it'll be hard not to, but if they get in, because they have pitching, they have really good defense, and they may have not hit the number of home runs that everybody wanted or expected or hoped for and all that this year, but. They got a pretty good idea how to hit and take some base hits, which are very, very important in the playoff time when you're facing the better pitchers, and everybody's under the gun. And, home runs are wonderful. You'd rather have them. Home runs definitely win. But I think they could do some damage when they get in. I really do. And that really comes back to the pitching and defense.
Do you think they actually could put it all together, though, Gibby? It just seems like it's been one thing or the other. Their pitching has been fantastic, and guys can hit, and then it'll be vice versa. It's just like you look at the Phillies who squeaked in last year and made a run. Like, do you think they might have that in them? Like that, watching the Phillies last year, it seemed like just big boy baseball, where it was like key hits, grizzled defense, all of it put together. You think the Jays could do it?
Yeah, really, there's something about this team I really like. I do think they can do that. You look at the teams that they potentially could face. You can't take away your division, but take them out. They swept Atlanta. They swept Arizona Diamondbacks. They won 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. 3-3 against. They got a win record against Houston. They even against Seattle. All the teams that they could face, except Baltimore and which you can't take those guys out. They played really well. So they play a good brand of baseball almost when they need to. And they haven't had that big run, which I think maybe they're on right now. And there's just something I like about it. I like the guys on the team, and it always goes down to pitching and defense, I think, to win it all. Obviously you got to hit. But we can't forget, too, I was working for the Braves a couple years ago, and they were basically a couple games below 500 August 1st. And they got hotter than fire, and they ran. They ended up winning the whole thing. So, there's just something about them I like. I can't write them off.
Gibby, how do you keep the composure? Because last week on this show, it was tough for us to be talking about it. They get swept by Texas on home field, 4 in a row. It's ugly. They're falling in the standings. And John Schneider kept coming out just saying, it's baseball. We got to look forward to tomorrow. How is he able to keep that composure? And everyone, I know the veterans say, it's just baseball. There's another game the next day. But when you're falling in the standings, is it tough to do? Do you have to have individual meetings, or you just tell the guys, hey, let's look forward to tomorrow's game?
Well, you know what? I've never been a big meeting guy anyway, and I think you have too many of those. They tune you out, especially at crunch time, because everybody's aware. Your players are aware of what's going on at the moment, Yeah, and a lot of times we do say, hey, it's just baseball and all that. In reality, that's the truth. But we're underplaying it a little bit. There's no question about that. Because, you lose 4 to Texas and get really dominated. You think maybe this is it, right? But they didn't. They bounced back against Boston. But you know what? Like nobody wants to say, yeah, we're in trouble. Nobody's ever going to say that, right? But you do feel that. But the what you have going for it, every night, if you can throw a good pitcher out there on the mound, you got a chance. You know, you may get shut down offensively, and somebody may get to your bullpen, which is hard to do with their bullpen. But you got a shot. It's not like they're running, like if this was last year and they were running Kikuchi and Berrios out there, they're in trouble. You know what? They're in big trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's different this year, So I guess, but the players and the coaching staff, they're feeling the heat. I mean, that's just part of it, and the fan base gets a little rabid, and we underplay it a lot of times. But you know what? You have to approach it that way because it's a one sport where you go at it every single night. So if you get caught up in it, next thing you know, you do disappear. So you got to be able to let things go.
With John Gibbons, you mentioned earlier in the chat how wild it is seeing the Yankees and the Sox at the bottom of the standings. Baltimore's going, Tampa's going, and now it looks like the Jays are going too. And you guys had some great series, both at Fenway and at Yankee Stadium, specifically Yankee Stadium. I remember September of 2015 when you guys were really chugging. I think you swept them at Yankee Stadium. Stroman had made his return, and that was when everyone knew, like, this is legit. It's over. Jays are going to win the AL East. But the Yankees were still very competitive. I'm curious how different it might feel being down there for this series where the Jays are playing for something, the Jays have life, and the Yankees look the complete opposite. They just looked lifeless out there, and it's like Aaron Boone's waiting for the season to come to an end. How strange that would be at a mecca like Yankee Stadium.
Oh, yeah, because you don't see it too often. You know what? It's one. The fan bases of those cities, they don't stand for it, and so you don't see it that often. And when they have a bad year or two, they make some changes. That's just the way it is. But to go in there this time of year, it's got to be different. They got guys that are trying out for next year. They got guys that'll be back next year. But you know what? They know it's over, and they're just kind of not that they're going through the motions, but they've got nothing to lose. But in saying that, that's when those teams can be dangerous too.
Mm-hmm.
If hey, just go out there, here, boys. Because I'm telling you, it's tough to win when you got to win. You guys know that, and because you put a little extra pressure on yourself to get something done, and sometimes you come out of your element. And all it takes, like tomorrow. Let's say they got Cole, whether he pitches tonight or tomorrow. They're talking about him possibly winning the Cy Young. So there's a good chance he's going to be on. He's probably going to shut you down, or he's going to minimize the number of runs you get. So you got to match that, right? You got to find a way to score some runs. So on any given day, anybody can win, but it does. It just seems weird that those two teams are sitting at the bottom, But that won't last. They can't. You know what? The fan bases run them out of town.
That's right. Yeah, eventually you would think it'll turn, but you don't have to worry about it this year if you're Toronto, Tampa, or Baltimore. Enjoy the games tonight, Gibby. We'll do it again down the road. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, guys, man. Always enjoy it.
You got it. John Gibbons, former Blue Jay manager, host of the Gibby Show. Jays Yankees tonight. Gausman on the mound. Gausman looking for a little bit of redemption. Last time we saw him, it didn't go so well. But,
he needs to get fired up here down the stretch.
Yes.
Feel good about his game.
Are they missing Cole?
No, I think Cole's going tomorrow, right?
Yeah, that's
I believe Cole's scheduled. He's not going tonight. He's not scheduled tonight.
It would have been nice to just miss that guy. He's just such a horse. I can't stand watching him come out to the mound because you're in one against that guy.
Right. Yeah, it's weird with a losing team. You had a guy who's chasing a Cy Young. It's the same thing with Blake Snell out in San Diego. Snell's putting together just a remarkable season, yet the Padres are out of it. Yankees are out of it, yet Cole's going to show up, and he's trying to finish his resume, right? Chasing a Cy Young. Something can still come out of this season on a positive side for Cole, and you're right, it's Cole versus Berrios tomorrow. But Jays-Yankees tonight. We'll continue to tee that up throughout the afternoon. Some wild stories coming out of the Chicago Bears. They're 0-2. They're terrible. And guess who they get to play this week? The Kansas City Chiefs. So it should go very well, I'm sure, for Chicago.
I hope we get that game.
Grappler, don't even think about it. Don't even think about it unless it's my game. Although the spread's going to be like 13.5. Let's look that up. I'm curious what it is. I'm guessing it's double digits. I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
I don't think the grappler should be like hand picking. There should be some type of wheel system.
Because I can do a coin flip if you guys want, because I'm neutral. If you guys want me to choose.
I don't like the idea of the grappler possibly jamming Owen Wilson up on a hot streak.
You guys are going to get jammed up. You've had the easiest picks ever, courtesy of the grappler.
I was just going to say, considering the games I have given you through 2 weeks, you're worried that I'm going to jam you up?
Insanity.
Unbelievable.
Excuse me, please listen. If you just think, let's make this interesting, and you try to jam me and Lukey Boy up, it's going to be obvious, and you're going to have a problem on your own hands.
It's still a spread, right? It's not an outright winner. It's a spread. The number, it could still go either way. The grappler doesn't come up with the line. We're taking the lines off FanDuel.
Okay? I'm just saying.
Okay, so just for context, what is the easiest game coming up? Chicago versus Kansas City,
not
correct?
necessarily. JP's saying the line's 12.5. I think the Chiefs are going to beat them by 3 touchdowns personally because of the term. Like, their defensive coordinator has resigned, and
their quarterback's blaming coaches.
And their quarterback, Justin Fields, was asked why. Okay, let's come back and reset this.
Yeah, we got to get this.
Insanity what's happening in Chicago. Like, if you're a Bears fan, you have to be dry heaving right now, thinking this is sickening,
dude,
and I got to get out. Right?
The fans must be begging for the guy with the visor. Bring the visor guy back, Nagy.
You want Matt Nagy? That's how ugly it is. Bring back Nagy.
Bring back his bald head and the visor and the beard.
He loved the visor, didn't he?
Loved it.
Man, did he love it. So, yeah, more on that still to come. The Argos have re-upped pinball. Pinball's going to join us in a couple of hours. The Argos are the hottest team in the city. And Toronto FC's in Miami game planning for Messi tonight. I'd love to see that. Love to be in the room when Terry Dunfield walks in and goes, all right, here's my plan. We're going to shut down Messi tonight, boys. Everyone get jacked up. We're going for Messi.
Terry Dunfield's not the coach anymore, pal.
Well,
get your FC facts
whoever
straight.
The coach is, whoever's running the program, it will be John Herdman at some point. I understand what you're saying. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Chris Pronger will join us in about 15 minutes, followed by Jerry. Jerry's percentages at 5:30. Pinball Clemens coming up in a couple of hours as well. All right, you want to hear, okay, the defensive coordinator of the Bears has resigned, and you know something wild is going on here when everyone connected to the NFL is saying, if it's true what I'm hearing, which means no one wants to be the first to report it, but there are rumors going around of what happened here and why this guy resigned, and eventually it's going to get out. That's the defensive coordinator, all right? not like the water boy, not the guy who is like the assistant to the coach of the safeties. The defensive coordinator game planning for Patrick Mahomes is out, all right? Chicago Bears. On top of it, their quarterback, Justin Fields, was asked about his play through 2 weeks. Here's the question, and here's the answer from earlier this afternoon.
When you say thinking less, what do you think was causing you to think so much, maybe think too much?
Could be, coaching, I think. But, at the end of the day, it makes it, they're doing their job when they're giving me, what to look at and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I, can't be thinking about that when the game comes. I prepare myself throughout the week, and then when the game comes, it's time to play free at that point. So, just thinking less and, playing more.
I'll tell you what, man. If I'm an owner,
a jam job.
If I'm an owner and this nonsense is going on, but I got the feeling from just memory, haven't they wiped everyone out numerous times in the last 10 years?
Yeah, they've turned over a lot of people in Chicago.
That is nonsense. He is basically saying that the coaches are a bunch of donkeys, and he's not taking any responsibility because he's not playing worth anything, and it's a mess.
Well,
it's a mess.
Obviously someone got to him, or his internal clock kicked in, because I guess he called an impromptu presser like at his locker afterwards, like calling the media over, saying like, hey, just to clarify, because he realized he screwed up big time. You cannot sit up there and say, well, yeah, I've been brutal, but the coaches stink, and that's why I've been brutal. Like, as a starting quarterback,
this is the best answer. What's the main contributor to that, like, lack of success? Okay, coaching.
Like,
literally.
as the quarterback, everything runs through you. You have to take the bullets. It can be difficult at times, especially in a tough environment like Chicago.
Well, imagine showing up at 4 a.m. every day to go through video and try to get that guy some play options to allow him to have success. And he says that?
Right.
I would go insane.
It's got to be crushing.
Yeah.
It's got to be crushing.
I agree. And he's been no good anyway. Like the player has to own that. It's not like you're just a robot out there. Does he have any type of, intuition of what to do in the pocket if the play's not there? Like I hated that. I hate that comment.
It's just not a smart play at all. And no. Obviously the coaching probably isn't great. And there isn't a ton of help for him there. To be fair to Justin Fields, they've been a terrible team for years. They've got a couple more weapons this year, but not many. But he's a first-round talent. He's a first-round pick. He had a successful college career. This is year 2. I think they've lost 12 games in a row. Like, at some point, that's on the quarterback, right? At some point, in a quarterback's league, he is capable of changing it. And I also wonder if this is him sniffing out that this is it for him anyway, right? That they're probably going to wipe everyone out again. And if they get the first pick, they're taking that Caleb Williams kid. There's 3 or 4 other, I believe, stud
he won't go there. He's already threatened Arizona. If it's a mess, I'm not going.
Well, Chicago feels like a different beast. I mean, Chicago,
really?
I hear what you're saying. Their history, like recent history, is not great. It's not. But it's like an original team. It's Chicago, exactly. Like, that would be enticing, I think, for a lot of young players. Like,
I would guarantee you, if you talk to that kid right now, he would say, "I'll take Arizona over Chicago." I guarantee it.
Listen, it may not be far off. I can't argue.
The first question for Luke Wilson tomorrow.
Okay, let's throw it at him.
All right.
Yep, let's throw it at him. So, Bears, Chiefs minus 12.5 at home. That number's going up.
And it's your game.
It very well could be my game. If I can lock in 12.5 right now, I'll do it. I'll bet you it's 13.5 by tomorrow.
We're not locking anything right. By the way, we got to go to New York quickly when we come back. Somebody went full Messier.
Okay, we'll come back with that. Chris Pronger and Jerry's percentages as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.